historical gaming using tabletop miniatures, and they played war games and things like that already. So they're very familiar with the concepts, but one of the biggest problems with playing strategic level board games and converting them to miniatures, it's the number of miniatures that you're going to need. So there's two different scales that you really should consider here. There's 28 millimeter, which are usually based individually. They're easier to paint, and you can see the details better on it. And then there's 15 millimeter. So when you base individually, you can do skirmish-based games. So that means each man acts individually. Or you can kind of put them into teams and do formations and things like that as you get more units. But typically at first, skirmish level is the easiest way to go. And then as you build your army, you can start getting to more formation type things. It's very difficult to do skirmish-based games, or I don't even know if it's just not possible unless each unit acts individually. But there's two different things to consider here. So with skirmish-based games, you've got a man-to-man action. Each man acts individually. Each one is activating, and he's kind of moving in and doing his action. And then another guy might move in and do his action. And this guy, the turn might be over, and this guy might either go into melee, or this guy might shoot this guy over here. So there's lots of choices to make, and almost like a storytelling type mode. In this type of game, you've got 15 millimeter, again, which are more difficult to paint just because of the size of the unit, and sometimes the level of detail required on painting Napoleonics is just incredibly detailed. So if you have steady hands, you should be okay in plenty of time, but you're going to need a lot of units to play a Napoleonic game. So in Napoleonics, some of the interesting things about a 15 millimeter scale type game is you can do different formations with the whole group acting as one. So this is a line formation. Everybody's facing the same way. They've got a lot of firepower, and they can shoot forward, but cavalry can attack them from the side and make them weak. So there's like flanking attacks and things like that. You can do a march column, which means everybody's not ready to fire, but they're marching and they're moving through the woods, and they can kind of maneuver through different terrain faster. And then there's also skirmish mode, which everybody's kind of separated apart and kind of ready for an attack, but just not as strong as the typical line fire that you'll face. So when you're coming up against the enemy, you got the choice of moving really fast, then you got to stop and you got to deploy into line formation. So that takes time. If your enemy is standing right there, you got to decide what moment is the best time for you to kind of deploy into line formation. And that is a lot of fun in deciding that factor. With skirmish type games, you're going to be, these three men will be over here, these two guys will be here, and depends on the type of game that you have. You can have this group doing the exact same thing, but you're going to need more units, and that's where the 15 millimeter is cheaper and the 28 millimeter is more expensive. These are easier to paint. This tells more of a storyline. So I'm going to activate this guy, and he's going to move up and try to get into contact with him. And then I'm going to try to activate this guy. He's going to try to get up in contact with him. And then my turn might be over. So this man either has the choice of moving into combat to help his friend, or shooting this guy and preventing him from like participating in the attack, and then fighting this battle here. So again, you're activating each unit individually as opposed to activating a group of figures to act as a formation and do certain things. Overall, I think the Songs of Drums and Shakos is probably the best way to start, because you can start with a few figures. These figures are from Hobby Lobby, and they're about $1 a piece. You buy them pre-painted, and you can mount them on these little bases, and they look pretty good. So if you're just starting out, it's a great way to get started into it. If you buy them pre-painted, they're going to be about $6 a figure. And I think pre-painted Napoleonics are about $1 a figure. So if you look at each stand, this is probably about $3. It just depends on the quality of the unit that you're looking at, the quality of the painting. So you can take a look at the different prices and see what is you're wanting to do. Another recommendation I have is a game called Hold the Line, which is a board game which lets you do the formations like we talked about. But it also comes with miniatures. So if you want to play around with the idea of using skirmish-based miniatures, the Songs of Drums and Shakos rule set would allow you to play a Shako or a skirmish-type game and just have fun with it and kind of get the idea, hey, I like this type of stuff and I want to spend a lot of time painting all these units. And you'll start learning about the different types of units that are in Napoleonics. There's so many different types of units that are in so many different battles. You're going to find that as you decide to do a specific battle, like Waterloo. Waterloo was such a huge battle, and there were so many different types of units. And a lot of historical players get into the details of which unit was where, what type of a rifle were they having, or what type of musket did they have, or what type of artillery. And there's so many details, and you can spend so much time studying and building a 50mm army towards this specific scenario, and then you say, okay, I want to do another one, and then you're going to find that you're going to need different types of units like hussars or grenadiers or something like that. The number of scenarios and different types of units that were available in different areas is overwhelming at times. And so this rule set, or this board game, comes with miniatures if you get the most recent version. And it's a lot of fun. You can play it as a board game, or you can play it with the miniatures on a table if you wanted to. And then another idea is Command of Colors Tricorn, which just came out. And basically it has all the units in block form. So you'll get these blocks in like this, and you'll put the stickers on it, which come in sheets onto the blocks. And so you'll be able to simulate the tabletop by having the different types of units on the board on hexes. And so you can kind of do more strategic level board gaming with all the unit types that are listed here, just by you can see the number of blocks that I've got to go through here. And it plays on a hex board, just like Hold the Line. And you'll put terrain in these different areas. You'll set the blocks up in these just like you would set up a miniatures game. And you kind of play these cards against each other. And the cards tell you which units can move in which section. So I really like this group, or this board game. If you are interested in a lot of types of units and kind of interested in the overall strategic game a little more than the skirmish level game, I'd recommend this. Hold the Line is a unit by unit activation, or they do act in groups too, but they do not have the detail like this one has. So Hold the Line is basically infantry, cavalry, and artillery. So if you're looking for something simple, it's a great way to get into historical gaming, board gaming. If you're looking for something a little more detailed with the units and don't have the time to paint, I would highly recommend this. If you are looking to play a tabletop miniatures game and just get started, I'd suggest going to Hobby Lobby, getting some of these units and base them up, or just start painting groups of guys. And you can use songs of drums and shakos to kind of get started, start playing with the units that you've got, and kind of build out your forces and have fun there. And then maybe move into muskets and tomahawks later on by Studio Tomahawk. Or if you really want to get to go all in, you can go 50mm. And I tell you, I got overwhelmed with the number of 15mm armies and specific types of units that I needed for battles. When I first started getting into the hobby, I started buying a little bit of English, a little bit of British, a little bit of Russians, and I found I couldn't really do any specific battle because I still didn't have all the units that were required for it. So as you start playing historical scenarios, you're going to find that people want the specific units that are there with the specific uniforms, and part of the gameplay is actually having the right uniforms. And so you can either go highly detailed with something like this and have a lot of units, a lot of time, a lot of painting, a lot of detailed painting, or you can kind of gradually go on with something like this. So I hope this helped you kind of get an idea of where to go. Again, I think 28mm is the best way to get started and grow up from there. So take care.